Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Just been a pleasant hour and a bit with my good friend Lindsay Laurie in the residential care place where he lives at the moment. And you might recall that a few weeks ago I shared some poetry of Lindsay's. He's a really good Australian poet and has written lots of poetry over the years. And we did a bit of an audio recording of him reciting some poems. And I've been in to see him again today. Excuse me. And we had a good yarn, as they say, and I took with me this book here, the poems of Henry Lawson, who's a famous Australian poet, and this is some of his poems. There's about 20 or so poems in here, and illustrated by the famous Pro Hart, who's a famous Australian artist, and who's no longer living now. But this is a beautiful book of Australian poems, and a couple of them, and there's one of the illustrations in there in the typical Pro Hart style. A couple of them we read, including this one called Mary. Mary called him Mister, and there's Pro Hart's. Where are we? Pro Hart's depiction of Mary saying goodbye to Mister, and it's a classic story. And so I read that out to uh, Lindsay, and he was very familiar with a lot of these poems. And he actually said there was one in here called the Reedy Creek, I think it's called. Let me just have a look and see. Yeah, Reedy River, it's called. And so I read that out to him. You'll hear me reading it out to him. And there's also one called the Water Lily, which he pointed out to me that as soon as I mentioned that name, he said, "Oh, there's a song written by this English folk singer that came out a few years ago who I collaborated with." And he has recorded that. And anyway, we stopped the tape at that stage and we had to listen to Martin, his name is, I think, you'll get the full details afterwards, singing that song. And it was quite a lovely tune. And then he found another one that he had sung as well. So we had a discussion. Our discussion we digressed a bit when I talked to Lindsay. You only got to be speaking for about 20 seconds and you're off on another subject. And I tend to be the same. So I said to him this afternoon, I said, if we ever really got going, we'd never get home, or I'd never get home. So anyway, so I hope you enjoy this short afternoon's conversation with Lindsay Laurie. He's a lovely guy and a wonderful poet and raconteur is what we call it, I suppose. And he's got heaps and heaps of stories, Australian type stories. He's actually sent me a book that he's written, or a series of books that he's written, which he was a bit shy to send me because he thought they might be a bit too blue for me. I said no. Anyway, he just sent one before I got home and he even sent it to me. So I just started to read it. It looks fantastic. He's really got away with telling stories of what's the word? The dinky die Aussie outback characters. So anyway, sit back and have a listen. I might add a couple of these photos from this book of the poems, and in the actual text while the text is being read. So thanks for watching, but keep watching or keep listening because the screen will go black in a minute, and then it'll be a conversation with Lindsay Laurie. So thanks for watching. Like if you like, and subscribe if you wish. Keep watching. See ya.
People are mostly Australian,
Yeah,
mostly I think,
yeah,
but he's quite good.
yeah,
A really nice man he was too.
yeah,
He wasn't, you never had any fear of him being a snob or, better than anyone else. Or,
yeah,
he wasn't like that at all. He was really down to earth, quiet. If anything, he was quiet. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Very quiet.
yeah. No, that was beautiful. That what was it called? Willow. No,
That was
Reedy River. That one. Yeah.
You might be able to put, if you can get one off the YouTube.
I'll find it.
and record it onto your...
Let me just look up his name again, see if he's still alive.
Martin?
Hang on, wait a minute. I've got to find the right spot. Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N?
Yeah, Wyndham, W-Y...
N-D-H-A-M?
N-D... Reid.
Reid. Oh, here we go. Martin, R-E-A-D.
Yeah.
Martin Wyndha-Reid. He's got grey hair on this picture here.
Oh, yeah, well...
Folk Federation. He looks like he's still alive. Here's a picture of him.
Oh, yeah, that's him.
That's him.
Yeah.
And so let me just have a look and see what it says here. Excuse me. He's born in 1942, so that makes him...
So that makes him 82.
Very good, does it? 82, yeah. August 1942. Yeah. So he'd be going on for 83 this year. Yeah. He was born in Sussex, England, and is an English folk singer who was a collector and singer of Australian folk music. Oh, maybe he has died. He lived and worked in Australia from 1958 to 1967 and was subsequently a regular visitor to the country. No, he's still alive according to this. He's aged 82. Yeah. There's a picture of him here on tour in Tasmania in 1997. And he was born in Crawley, Sussex. Australian. He's got a website. So, discography. Let's have a look at his discography.
I'd put up Martin Wyndha-Reid YouTube.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're more likely to find something to, you know. He might have one or two songs on the...
I found his website. Yeah. Anyway, that was very interesting. So, yeah, there's not much you don't know about all this stuff, is there? You've got an amazing memory, Lindsay. Now,
oh, gee, he was a nice fellow. I couldn't get over how nice he was.
Yeah?
And his wife, too.
Yeah?
Oh, jeez. You know, like, I really only met him once, really. But he wanted to get back in touch with me, and I didn't feel comfortable with that for some reason. I don't know. I don't know. I just thought, why would he want to ever get in touch? I might have felt an inferiority to him.
That's your problem. You're so humble.
Well, it feels
it's not
like
a problem, really, but...
I just felt that way because he was so good.
Yeah.
I sit there listening, I think, why would he ever want to have anything to do with me?
But people who care about those sort of songs care about people, and they want to talk to people.
Yeah.
You know, that's
why he did.
That's why they do it.
I think he might have thought he'd get a few stories out of me.
Well, he would have. Yeah. I get a few out of him.
He wasn't in Australia when he wanted to get in touch with us. I think by email or something.
Yeah.
You know. And
I could get in touch with him and ask him if he still wants to get in touch with him.
No, don't do that.
Don't do that? No.
You never heard back from that American lady?
No, not yet. Well, maybe they haven't had the competition yet.
Oh.
Shall we read this one called Mary Called Him Mister? Have you heard that one?
Yeah, a long time ago.
This is a classic, I think.
Yes, it's good. Read it out.
Yeah. They'd parted just a year ago. She thought he'd never come back. She stammered, blushed, held out her hand and called him Mr. Mac. How could he know that all the while she longed to murmur John? He called her Miss LeBrook and asked how she was getting on. They'd parted but a year before. They'd loved each other well, but he'd been down to Sydney since and come back such a swell. They longed to meet in fond embrace. They hungered for a kiss. But Mary called him Mister, and the idiot called her Miss.
That's right.
He paused and leaned against the door. A stupid chap was he. And when she asked if he'd come in and have a cup of tea, he looked to left, he looked to right, and then he glanced behind and slowly doffed his cabbage tree and said he didn't mind. She made a shy apology because the meat was tough, then asked if he was quite sure the tea was sweet enough. He stirred his tea and sipped it twice and answered plenty quite, and cut himself a slice of beef and said that it was right. She glanced at him at times and coughed an awkward little cough. He stared at anything but her and said, I must be off. That evening he went riding north, a sad and lonely ride. She locked herself inside her room and sat her down and cried. They'd parted but a year before. They loved each other well, but she was such a country girl, and he had grown such a swell. They longed to meet in fond embrace. They hungered for a kiss, but Mary called him Mister, and the idiot called her Miss.
Yeah. I know it's a good poem. He wrote some really good stuff.
There's the photograph.
Yeah.
That Pro Art did.
Jeez.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a good artist, wasn't he?
A unique
Australian artist.
Yeah.
Australian art, fella down here in room 14.
Yeah.
He sold up and everything, and he donated these artworks out here. Jeez, they're good.
Yeah.
Real Australian artworks, It's so different to anywhere else.
It is, yeah. And when I might have said to you before, when the original English settlers came out here and they were artists, they tried to paint the Australian bush, but they kept painting it in English setting, and they didn't look like Australia at all. The early paintings they did, because they were trying to encourage people back England to come out here. And if they had painted the harsh environment, they thought they wouldn't come. I think that was the theory.
And it's same with the poet, Adam Lindsay Gordon.
Yeah.
He was a really well-known poet.
Yeah.
But when you read his poems, they're sort of like they got an English tone to them. It's trying to do the Australian thing, but use an English sort of just.
Yeah, they weren't quite there, were they? Some of the early settlers, no. They were still trying, and the Australian identity was still being shaped, wasn't it?
A big example of the English was down at Barwon Park, just out of Geelong.
Yeah.
Thomas, what was his name? Thomas something or other. He brought out 24 rabbits.
Yeah.
And for his property, Barwon Park.
Mm.
And anyway, he let them go, and he told his visitors that come out there, you can go and shoot the rabbit, but don't shoot too many. He said, we don't want to lose them all. And within 2 or 3 years, they crossed the Murray. And I thought, how did the rabbits cross the Murray? But in those days, there was no locks.
No, and
the river was so dry, that the rabbits could run across.
Yep. True.
And that's how they crossed the Murray.
Yeah, and they opened up the inland with paddle steamers, but sometimes when there was no water in the river, they were stuck on a sandbar for months, 6 months, 9 months.
I saw that once.
Before they put the locks in.
Yeah, well, when the locks were in, where was it? Up in Kalkine National Park.
Yeah.
What they call, behind the lock, they called the pool.
Yeah.
It was the pool.
Mm.
And above the pool was the river. And I went up in that Haddo National Park, and I couldn't believe it. There was just islands of sand everywhere in the river, birds on it. And the river boats could never get up that.
No, not until they put the locks in.
In fact, I reckon you could have walked across the river.
Oh, you could. I've been up there when it's been in drought and you could walk across the river.
And I've seen it in the opposite too, when it was so full of water that there was areas where in dips and that the water could get out.
Yeah.
And I reckon it covered 100 acres or more.
Yeah.
Just water laying everywhere.
Mm.
And I've seen it when they have the black water too.
Mm.
Gee, that when you see black water, you know you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's due to the floods going down and the water coming in from under all the trees.
Yeah.
And all the dead leaves and all that, and the tannin, I guess.
Yeah.
And there's a law that when the black water comes in, you're not allowed to pick the crayfish up off the banks and that, because they come out of the water so they can survive, because there's no oxygen.
Yeah.
And there's big crayfish come out onto the thing, but you're not allowed to.
Yeah.
You get caught, you get in a real strife.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. That Murray River, gee, you can see it.
It's
and
amazing.
the same with the Darling, gosh.
Yeah.
But it's green. It goes green.
Yeah, so I've got photographs of it green. Yeah. Yeah. Let's find another one.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got here. The days when we went swimming. I wonder what that's like.
We'll give it a go.
We'll give it a go. I love that painting by Pro Hart. Have a look at that.
Oh yes, the swimming
Skinny
pool.
dipping.
Yeah, the kids in the pool. And you know what? We used to do the same. We call it the railway dam.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't do that now because at the same, like at Airways and the dam was the same. Right up to the water, the grass was at least 3 or 4 foot high, and there was no paths. As kids, we just wandered through it with bare feet and all that, not even thinking of snakes and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, because snakes like to gather where water is.
Yeah.
But the railway dam was a little creek ran into it when it ran.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they even used it for.
Yeah.
But we used it because it was
as a swimming hole.
Yeah, because it was the only place around our district that, unless we walked a couple of miles down to the Bunyip River.
Yeah. So just get all your gear off and hop in.
Just take your clothes off, and you go.
Yeah.
We kept our shorts on and that.
Okay.
Yeah, because the trains used to go past.
Well, I'll tell you another story about that same sort of thing where they didn't keep their clothes on. My parents used to live at West Croydon, and I lived at Brooklyn Park.
Oh yeah.
And I used to ride my bike over to their place quite often. I'd go down Holbrooks Road, it's called, and there's a bridge used to go up over the Torrens.
Oh yeah.
It's flat now. The bridge is flat, but it used to be like that. It was
you
quite
to
steep.
let the boats go over?
No, there was a dam down the side of it. No,
okay.
it was the Torrens was pretty much, there was no boats going through.
Yeah.
But in the old days, you know, it was steep bridge. A lot of the bridges they were like that, but then they flattened them all out now. Anyway, just down to the right-hand side, I'd be riding my bike over, and down the right-hand side there was a dam and a slipway sort of thing. They're all cement area with water in there, and all the local kids, all the local lads, you'd drive over, and they'd all be in there skinny dipping in the dam, you know. And this is back in the 1950s, and no one would be going to do that now. They did all the time.
No.
Anyway, let's read this. The days we went swimming. It might tell us a bit about it. The breezes wave the silver grass waist high along the siding. This could be where you were. I'll start again. The breezes wave the silver grass waist high along the siding, and to the creek we ne'er could pass, 3 boys on bareback riding. Beneath the she-oaks in the bend, the waterhole was brimming. Do you remember yet, old friend, the times when we went in swimming? The days we played the wag from school, joys shared but paid for singly. The air was hot, the water cool, and naked boys are kingly. With mud for soap, the sun to dry, a well-planned lie to stay us, and dust well rubbed on neck and face, lest cleanliness betray us. And you remember Farmer Coots, though scarcely for his bounty, he'd leased a 40-acre block, and 40 owned the county. That men grew hard and grim in, drew his water from the pool, that we preferred to swim in. And do you mind when down the creek his angry way he wended, a green hide cart whip in his hand, for our young backs intended. 3 naked boys upon the sand, half buried and half sunning, 3 startled boys without their clothes across the paddocks running. We had some scares, but we looked blank. When resting there and chumming, we glanced by chance along the bank and saw the farmer coming. Some home impressions linger, of cups of sorrow brimming. I hardly think that we'll forget the last day we went swimming. It's classic, isn't it?
There's a joke about, you know, these 3 girls that were swimming in a pool. Yeah. And the young bloke turned up and all the girls would get out of here, you know, and carrying on and that there in the water. He said, it's all right, I just come down to feed the crocodile.
Oh dear. That's not a true story, is it?
No.
Yeah, well, the trouble is, up north, you can be in situations
do you know, Barry Kirkwood, his name was, he went for a trip around Australia.
Yeah.
He come from Mildura and I was there.
Yeah.
He said he got the biggest fright of his life. It was just I don't know, billabong or something, and he seen a dingo.
Yeah.
It was stopped there for a drink in the water, and he got his camera and he got out of the car, he got as close as he could to take a photo of the dingo, and he said as he had the camera up, this crocodile come from nowhere and grabbed the dingo. He said, I never got such a fright in all my life.
Yeah.
And it was probably his fault that the dingo got caught.
Yeah.
Because it's
got distracted. Wow.
Gee, he said, they just come from nowhere. He said,
wow.
But you can understand they do that. That's what they do.
Yeah. Yes, well, having lived in Darwin for 12 months, I've become very wary of crocodiles.
What about pythons?
Pythons?
Yeah.
I've never really come across one in the wild, but up at Renmark, where my wife comes from, there used to be Joe Brettall's reptile park.
Oh, yeah.
And he had these big pythons there, which you could
put
around your neck and everything. And I did that. And I was, when I was probably only just recently married, I guess, and I don't know whether he had any kids or not, but we were up at Renmark. There was this young guy came from Lae in New Guinea.
Oh, yeah.
An indigenous guy from Lae. He was on a cultural exchange or something or other, and he spent a week in my office working in the old PMG department, and I said to him, "Would you like to come on the weekend with us up to Renmark?" And he said, "Yeah, that'd be good." And he couldn't get over how far Renmark was because in New Guinea you don't.
Yeah, that's right.
It took us 3 hours, 4 hours to drive in the car. He couldn't get over how long it took to get there. But anyway, I took him out to Joe Brettall's reptile park, and we had a little Kodak Instamatic camera I bought for him so he could take photos. And I said, "Can you take my photo of this one?" Vingo Desiang, his name was. Vingo Desiang.
Oh, yeah.
Had about 6 kids back in New Guinea. Anyway, he was probably about 40, I think. But he... I got this big python, huge big python, put it around my neck, and you got under supervision. You're not about to be killed by the thing, and they were still doing that up until the day the place closed. But anyway, he took my photo, and I looked around for Vingo, and I said, "Okay, your turn now." And he'd gone about 100 yards away. He said, "I don't want to go near that." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Oh, the snake might come after me afterwards."
Well, up in Darwin, it was a couple of years ago now, in a school up there, a python, I don't know whether they lay eggs or have young ones, but they found 20 of them in a part of the wall, these baby ones.
Yeah.
So they had to evacuate the school and get them out. But they say 1 out of every 3, I think, houses in Brisbane is liable to be a python.
Yeah, well, a friend of ours, son and wife and kids live up there, and they've got pythons on their property.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to be careful if you've got dogs and cats.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, in Cairns, I think it was, someone got out to feed their dog in the morning. It was on the chain was into the, went into the thing, and it was a python that was in there.
Yeah.
It swallowed a dog.
Yeah. Ah, well, I've been recording all this.
Oh.
I better stop it. But it's been good having a chat. It's amazing what how we digress.
You go from one thing to another.
You do. You're good at that.
Yeah.
And my problem is I'm good at that too. So we'd never go home if we kept going.
I know. Talk on and on and on. But
anyway, I'm just going to stop it here for the minute, Lindsay. We can still keep talking. I might put some of this on, if not all of it, on YouTube. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I'll just stop this now.